Hi everyone, I'm Nisha and with me are Aswathy and Kevin. We are officially back. New look, new format, and new ways of working. And no, I'm not just talking about this podcast because F1 is also going through the greatest overhaul since 2014. But before we get into batteries and boost modes, let me ask my guests over here, what is the one thing that you're actually looking forward to this year?
So we all know what I want more than anything else, what I've wanted since I started watching F1. But we'll not talk about it or show caps that indicate what I want. Uh, some of the other mini side quests would be Williams getting a couple of podiums, maybe a race win, maybe the Red Bull second seat curse finally being lifted, and also a
Yeah.
Bortoleto podium is quite due, I think. What about you, Kevin?
For me, it's very simple. There's no caps on the things we can talk about.
Nice, nice. Well done.
This
Oh,
is the part
oh, oh,
where you
now.
put it. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Love it. Yeah. So, like I was saying, as you can tell, we're very happy to have my boys Checo Chetin and Bottas Buddy back on the grid again. It's a team that technically comprises of two second drivers, but as you
Hmm.
know, two is better than one. So I'm excited to see how this season's going to go for them.
Me, I think I'm excited to just see the sport in itself because F1 is going to look completely different. And we've heard multiple things come out of the drivers' mouths during the Barcelona shakedown and Bahrain testing. Some people saying that this is bad. Some people are saying that no, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. So I don't know if FIA is doing it just for the hype because they want more people to watch the races, but yeah, I'm just really looking forward to how this sport is going to play out this year. Because from what we've heard, 2026 is going to make Formula One lighter, faster, smarter, and more sustainable. But let's be honest, we're all here to just figure out who is going to get it right on the first attempt and who is going to, spend the next 3 years saying, next year is our year.
No personal attacks will be accepted.
This is F101, your friendly neighborhood F1 podcast.
That doesn't gatekeep but overshares.
Race updates, meme, and technical stuff.
It's the new season of F1 and everything is new. So let's start with some of the things that we're already a bit familiar with. Let's talk through driver and personnel changes. Kevin, take it away.
So, in the spirit of personnel changes, when they say same but different, we still have MBS who's retained his position as the FIA dictate director president. What are we calling it? Yeah, whatever that is. Then obviously we have good news. Rookie Isaac Hajar gets promoted to Red
Mm-hmm.
Bull, and Red Bull is basically filling up the giant space that helmet market left. So this is going to
God.
be a fun season for all of us. Racing Bull, on the other hand, have a PR magnet on their hands with Arvid Lindblad, who made his trip to the Bud International Circuit recently for the MotoJam. So it's very
Yeah.
exciting to see that circuit actually being used for what it was created for. In other news, we have Valtteri Bottas and Checo Perez, who are part of a new team, Cadillac Racing.
Correct.
And lastly, we have Aston Martin and their new team principal, the legendary designer Adrian Newey, who are going to come in and make some massive changes and possibly end up T0 on the grid. So this is going to be fun because I'm really excited to see what he does with the aero and like overall team
Mm-hmm.
management because being a good engineer might not necessarily be a good manager, but also vice versa. But like he spent so much time in the sport that we could be proved wrong. So let's see how that goes.
based on
It'll be,
testing. I mean,
yeah, I was
based
gonna
on
say,
testing and Alonso's mental health, maybe curb some of that excitement and
Yeah,
keep it with you.
good point. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
moving on to manufacturers. Ashwati, go ahead.
So there's quite a few things happening. We're finally getting rid of the Renault engine because Alpine is now with Mercedes. So we have Mercedes, Alpine, McLaren, and Williams. Then Red Bull and Racing Bulls have left a partnership with Honda, Bayuki, and they're now working with Ford to make their own powertrains. So now Honda is with Aston Martin, and based on what we've seen in testing, it's looking a bit iffy to say the least. We have a whole new team with Cadillac, of course, Kevin. They're going to be using the Ferrari power unit. So they're testing it
No.
out.
Oh no! Just repeat that sentence again. They're using the,
Ferrari power unit this year.
as the kids say.
So they're just testing the waters out, seeing how it looks like before they bring their own unit in 29. So you have 3 years to be with me in this
Yes,
unique
correct.
club. Um, but I think the
This
most
is this
interesting,
is this is like testing the Titanic on land and expecting it to swim in the water. Does that make sense?
but the Titanic
Just
chose to be tested like this. It's a Titanic
Correct.
problem, not the land problem. Land is land.
okay. So I'm going to now pick up some like violin lessons so I can go down with the ship. Like those guys who are like
You can join me. I'm putting out the deck chairs anyway. And but I do
Nice.
feel I do feel with manufacturers, Audi is going to be super interesting. They're coming into the sport for the first time with their own engine. So let's see how that works for them.
Yeah, that is true. Actually, there are a lot of new companies that are entering the track this year, and the simple reason is that the new regulations have made the sport a lot more open. And there is a lot of information out there. We have been doing a lot of research, but we're going to try and break down some of the most important aspects for our listeners. Number one is that the cars are smaller and lighter. They are shorter by 200 millimeters, narrow by 100 millimeters, and about 30 kilos lighter. Even the tires are narrower. So, what it does mean is that the cars are easier to place, easier to follow, and it's easier to throw into corners for overtakes. And no, this doesn't mean that Monaco is now magically better and we're
Hey,
going to see 500 overtakes, a whole issue by itself. But it basically means that all of this weight loss that the cars have gone through, it has reduced the downforce that the cars have, which means the teams can't just glue the car to the track and, with some clever floor tricks and hope for the best. And what does that mean for us? It's good news because it means racing is becoming more important. Racecraft is more important. Driver skills will become more visible.
right. So just to kind of like, piggyback on the point that Nish had, so Monaco is not going to have 500 overtakes, but 499. Clip it.
that's where it's at.
So on the topic of less drag force, less drag obviously means less dirty air. One of the biggest problems that F1 cars now face is dirty air. And, like most of the time, the fans don't even realize how bad it is. Dirty air
Yeah.
essentially like overheats your tires, it kills grip, and it makes like following impossible. The new cars, though, have taken a different approach to aero. It's flat floors, narrower undersides, the beam wings completely gone, wheel arches are gone, and overall less-ish downforce and less
Mhm.
drag. Uh, it sounds dramatic, but the upside is less turbulent air hitting the car from behind means the car should be able to stay closer for longer than one corner. So,
So the drivers will stop complaining about dirty air on team
Y-
radios.
Well,
no,
they'll
they will
find
still
something else.
complain about it, but I'm guessing that they'll have a filter on it that cuts out the word dirty air and replaces it, like, using AI.
For
So instead
sure.
of it saying dirty air, it's just going to be, my God, I'm getting horrible vibes from the car in front of me.
This is something else actually. It's super quiet but massive. but we are moving away from that extreme ground effect, which means cars don't run so close to the ground anymore. And if you've been watching the last few seasons, you know what this means. Like less bouncing, less pain, less George Russell talk about purposing. Higher ride heights also mean cars are more forgiving over curbs and bumps, which I think really helps in street circuits and also encourages drivers to be more aggressive. Not that they need it, but definitely looks that way.
Active aero is the next thing, which we're going to hear about a lot. DRS, as we know it, is gone, but don't panic. Instead, we have active aero on the front and the rear wings. Now, these wings aren't about like pressing a button to get a speed boost. They're a bit smarter than that. So, in the corners, the wings will flex to give a little bit more downforce. And on the straights, they will flatten to reduce the drag and let the car fly. Most importantly, the driver isn't controlling this. It is dictated by track zones. And we saw some interesting rear wing shifting in Bahrain testing. We saw that the Red Bull's rear wing opens from the front, Alpine's rear wing flattens from the back, and Ferrari's does the Macarena with the fully rotating wing. We don't know what is the best option. We'll only find out once we go racing because the real advantage of this season is shifting from aero towards the power units. Kevin.
And on the topic of power units, that's where the 26 season really lives. You know, the new power units are almost like a 50-50 split between electric power and fuel. And that's huge because the new manufacturers like Audi, General Motors, and Ford, you know, they're kind of like at the cutting edge of hybrid tech that actually connects to the road cars that we actually use. Of course, we did have Max Verstappen call this new regulation Formula E on steroids. But with this engine split, electric power goes up all the way, which means battery management becomes central to racing. And recharging also changes completely because the MGUH is gone. No more harvesting heat from the turbos. Everything comes from the MGUK, braking, clever engine use, and revving through the corners. And yes, frankly, that's Ferrari's favorite move, lift and coast. Not all the teams, though, are happy with these, especially in challenging circuits where there isn't much chance to recharge. Forever rookie Alonso did have some choice words about this, and he said that drivers are now taking the corners at 50 kilometers an hour less so that they can save their power for the straights. But he also did say that the Aston Martin chef could drive the current F1 car. So, I mean, they have some talented people on the teams.
I don't know if that's what he meant to say, but we'll take that.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone loves a good regulation overall, and it comes with its own twist, of course. The one thing we're seeing now in testing is apparently race starts. It's now
Yeah.
lights up and away okay, now we go. So during testing, when the teams were running the launch simulations, a few of them looked kind of awkward, if you know what I mean. Like the car was thinking about it before leaving the grid, and the reason is energy. In 26, these cars rely much more on electric power, and most of the recharging comes from the braking. But at the start of the race, haven't braked, so the battery window and the torque delivery from speed is really delicate. Uh, so what did the teams do in that? And like they trialed this new procedure at the end of each day of testing, the
Mhm.
formation lap. Once the cars were lined up, all the grid panels flash blue for 5 seconds before the usual red lights begin. So these blue light periods give drivers time to get their turbo boost pressure where it needs to be, so that when the red lights go, the cars are actually moving and it doesn't just
Yeah.
sit there revving and spinning its wheels. So Ferrari called this out way back in 2025. They said this is going to be a problem, and
Mhm.
everyone. So they figured out a solution. When I say they, I mean we. So you guys do your own thing. There's not going to be any changes. We're just going to chill and just get our cars going. And the lights go out.
Hopefully, even Cadillac has that advantage, right? I mean, they should. They have the Ferrari engine.
I mean, the engines, the drivers are a whole different thing. I mean, I don't know about that.
Kevin, shots fired.
Right. So, on the topic of engines and loopholes, F1 dropped the compression ratio limit for all the engines from 18 to 1 to 16 to 1. Basically, how much you can squeeze the fuel before igniting. More squeeze essentially means more power, and the new rules say the engines must measure 16 to 1 when checked at room temperature. The clever folks at Mercedes, though, have explored a loophole. They've designed engine parts that expand when hot. So their engine measures 16 to 1 when cold and pass the
Yeah.
inspection and run closer to 18 to 1 while hot. This could give them the zero point 0.3 to 0.4 second lap advantage that Red Bull initially stayed silent about, but finally did bring up with the meeting with the FIA. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
ideally, I think we're looking at more meetings with the FIA, but more realistic outcomes in 2027.
I think with Red Bull, it's a case of sour grapes. We didn't figure it out.
Yeah.
So none of you can. That's it. That's how that looks like. Let's see how it goes.
Pretty much, yeah. It's. I think the thing is, it's essentially that you guys figured it out before we did, but that's
Mm.
essentially what I think the whole history of F1 is. So far,
Oh,
like it's
Yeah.
just somebody trying to get the better of somebody until somebody else notices it. I think in the earlier days, a lot more would fly under the radar because there wasn't as many cameras around as there is right now, and information hadn't, like the minute somebody sees something, it doesn't travel across the globe to like people all over the place who might be able to look at things a little more differently than the engineering team that's currently present there looks at it. So we're able to have a lot of third party inputs on the same thing coming in a lot more quickly than the team that you have on track who looks at the component, because like they say, what might look like a 6 to me might look like a 9 to you.
I want to
you
quickly
know,
move on from that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Aswati.
yeah, Nisha's trauma. What Kevin said gave me an idea. Imagine a Formula One spy movie. Like there's potential. A
Uh,
I
multi-season
think so.
series.
okay, I'm so sorry. Are you talking about Cars too?
No, no. No,
Yes.
Okay.
Formula One
But
spy
Ca-
movie. Tracking
Cars 2 was not a good movie.
Cars OG, of
I'll
course.
have I'll have you know that life is a highway. I want to ride it all night long. Okay? And on
Okay,
that
Kevin,
note,
Well
it's
done.
a-
we move on to the engine manufacturers.
But yeah, so I mean, I know that all that we've discussed right now and all the challenges and stuff, but like what happens, right, if one engine manufacturer just absolutely nails it and everyone else is like, uh, so this is where you have something called a duo, right? Which is ADUO, additional development and upgrade opportunities. It's basically the FIA saying, okay, we get it. The edges are hard and we don't want to freeze failure. So, say if a manufacturer is about 2 to 4% off a particular benchmark, they will be allowed one extra upgrade and a bit more relaxed testing for that engine. If they are 4% or more behind, then they can get two upgrades. And the FIA is going to check on the progress in three phases during the season. So it's not like unlimited help, but it is some kind of controlled catch up. So it's not like we're in this situation, like Mercedes was when they figured out aero, they figured out the engine, and they were stealing every single win for years to come. So here's an opportunity to level the playing field somehow.
it sounds complicated, but seems fair enough. I mean, it's all right. Should be good. Depends if Ferrari is really nailing it, then it's obviously unfair. But otherwise, it's a very fair enough deal. I think
Correct.
another interesting part is this year F1 is going to be running fully on sustainable fuel. And this chemical composition is so important. It could make or break the year. It is very different and it has to work perfectly with these new engines. Like it's difficult because I feel like early on we could see some reliability issues while sort of teams figure out this combustion behavior and the efficiency. Some teams think that this is where the real advantage will come from. especially those with strong fuel partners like Aston Martin and Aramco and Ferrari with Shell.
Aston Martin, especially, right? Because Aramco was the original company that suggested sustainable fuels the to F1 and then they've been working with the FIA to create the what this fuel could possibly look like. It's definitely a big advantage for
Like
them as long as that
I see
car
how,
is able to work.
yep, I see how it could be in theory. Great team on
Yeah,
paper, the part of Aramco, but
I
yeah,
know,
that's
I know.
And on that note, I think with we should transition to the safety regulations. So finally, safety gets an upgrade as it should every year. The roll hoop must now be 23% stronger, which is a direct response to recent accidents. There are also new warning lights that are integrated into the side view mirrors to help drivers spot cars approaching from behind, especially in poor visibility. So a lot of the tech, like you mentioned, does transition from F1 to road cars. This is one of the tech that's gone from road cars to techs. I think we call them indicators. In the world of F1, they will call them amber blinking emergency response devices. And the part's going to be sold by like three companies that are owned by the same people. And it's going to cost $1 million a pop. So that's going to be fun to see who makes money on that. But none of this changes the lap times. I mean, but it does change confidence. But when drivers trust the car and they trust the structure around them, they race harder. That's the point. So all cars must now have an FIA branding as proclaimed by the F1 Mighty God, MBS. As you know, the FIA branding does add 24% strength to the roll hoop. So that was actually a part of the testing that was there. So I'm really happy that they brought that in. It also serves as the force field during the rains and also reduces water spray by 72%. That will come out in the next study that we see.
Yes,
Yeah.
go. But let's do a quick jargon break, right? Because we need to talk about two buttons which have two very different vibes. The first one is the boost button. This one is simple. Drivers can press it anytime during the lap to unlock maximum power, as long as, of course, they have spent time before to save the battery. They can use it to attack, defend, emotionally cope on a straight. It's entirely depending on them. You can blow it all at once, or you can sprinkle it across their lap. This is totally their call. Then you have the overtake mode, which is new and it's a little bit more strict. Now, you can only unlock it if you're within 1 second of the car ahead and at the detection point. I think if you've seen F1 for the past couple of years, this is kind of similar to the DRS button. Basically, if you qualify and you have the energy, the car will unlock a stronger electric power mode to give it a little bit more push. And this one is about patience. It works best on long straights where you can hold on to that button for a longer time to get higher speed. So think about it this way. Boost mode is I feel brave, and overtake mode is I have earned this one, right? One is about impulse, the other one is about strategy. And in 2026, knowing when to use which one might make the difference between a clean pass and just someone screaming into the radio.
I feel like as you're saying this, I feel like I'm super excited to see how chaotic Australia is going to be. People pressing the
No.
wrong, yeah, it
Um,
would be fun. Yeah,
Actually, on that note, there's this one press conference from a really long time back, and there's this particular journalist whose name I'm forgetting, who is very well known for asking super long questions. And the question that he had asked in 2017 was, "Gentlemen, a short view back into the past. 30 years ago, Nicky Lauda told us, take a monkey, place him in the cockpit, and he is still able to drive the car. 30 years later, Sebastian told us, I had to start my car like a computer. It's very complicated." And Nico Rosberg said that during the race, I don't remember what race, he pressed the wrong button on the wheel. The question for you both: is Formula One driving today too complicated with 20 and more buttons on the wheel? Are you too much under effort, under pressure? What are your wishes for the future, concerning the technical program during the race? Less buttons, more or less and more communications with your engineers. Now, I can see your faces. This is the exact faces that the drivers also had, which was, I know
I'd like
English,
to quote.
but
I'd like to quote one of the drivers and say, "I'm so sorry, I didn't get that. Can you repeat that question again?"
see, like to your point, Ashwati, are there too many buttons? Like, what do you think? How do you think this is going to work out for the
so,
drivers this year?
so I have a few thoughts, and some of it might seem contradictory, and it can all exist in the same plane. So, the first thing, what makes Formula One different from different forms of motorsport is we push man and machine to the ultimate limit. Else, you can go racing anywhere, do anything, and it's still racing, right? But Formula One is pushing technology and man, and I feel like while the drivers give media bites and complain a lot, they will push 100 buttons if it'll give them that point 1 second, microsecond, nanosecond of speed. So if it works, it works. But I'm also
Yeah,
cognizant of the fact that a lot of cognitive load on the drivers. There's only so many things that they keep on their minds basically. So maybe some of it can be automated or can be done by the team at the back end. But and I see this sort of evolving, but I don't ever think a number of buttons is going to be a major problem. What do you think, Kevin? Please
I mean,
disagree.
the thing is, see, I mean, an F1 driver is the pinnacle of a human being, correct? In all
right.
shapes and forms and things. They're
Carlos
like,
Sainz.
okay, like our boy Danny Ricardo said, they are athletes. They sweat. Athletes sweat. Kiki, kra,
Kiki,
kra. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're at the pinnacle of, a sport, there's obviously a higher expectation on you to do more than a normal person would do. Uh, we look back to car tech a handful of years ago. What was it? You'd have a handful of hand controls. You didn't have to worry about the radio. You didn't have to worry about changing the GPS. Your buttons were all tactile. You didn't have to play through a screen to change the massage controls on your, seat. You didn't have to buy a heat warmer on subscription. You don't have to do any of these things, but the technology that you are exposed to in a car has also gone up significantly. The amount of things that you can do while you're in control of your own motor vehicle has also gone up significantly. I think as we go through time, the amount of stuff that we as a common person have to do has gone up significantly. It's no surprise that an F1 driver has to do it. This isn't a direct apples to apples comparison, but then again, it's you are going to reach a point where it becomes too much, right? I feel like personally for me, I'm somebody who likes the tactile touch and the feel of physical buttons in a vehicle because when I'm focusing on doing something and I'm driving and I'm in bumper to bumper traffic or I'm in a traffic that's flowing pretty well, I don't want to look down at a button and realize that, oh, I turned on the air circulation. I want to know physically where the thing is and I want to be able to turn it. I feel
hmm,
like the drivers have gotten so used to a setup that when you start adding new permutations and combinations to it, we had the Mercedes guys, like mess around with their brake bias and,
yeah,
end up going off in the first corner on the restart. There's a lot of instances that happen, where it feels like it's too much, but like everything in life, you're going to reach a saturation point and everything that goes up must come down. I want to see how much down they come now because I think it's just going to be like as long as they don't go back to like the Flintstone level stuff, I am fine with everything. That's just it.
yeah.
What about
I
you,
think
Nish?
for me, yeah, I would take this in like two parts. Okay. One is the reason why I got into this sport is because it is not a single person sport. Like it's not dependent on just the driver for them to win, right? The car has to work right, the strategy has to be good, the team has to come through, the pit stops have to be perfect. So when you say yes, there is an increase in cognitive load for the driver, I think it means that the teams need to work better together, like better communication. more engineers using, like, being thinking quick on their feet and having better strategy, taking away some of that cognitive load. Like, not everyone is Carlos Sainz. Let's just call that as it is, right? Carlos, as a person who can sit and literally be engineer and team principal and FIA race director at the same time
Yeah,
while he's driving a car, it's
yeah.
impossible for the others to do that. So the teams are going to have to do a lot more work. And the second part, which I think I'm more interested in seeing this, is the difference between old timers and rookies, right?
Mhm.
Because the rookies have grown up on doing more simulator work. They're playing more video games. They're just more naturally inclined towards pressing more buttons and being more tech savvy. So I'm really interested to see where that meets the actual experience and racecraft that, like, people like Lewis and Fernando and in fact, honestly, now the with the new rookies coming in, the average age has shifted. Max, who is like 29 years old, has fallen into the other side of things, right? So I think it's just going to be really interesting. I think I agree. The sport needs to evolve. This is an evolution. For the fans, it's about waiting and watching and seeing how it plays out. I think anyone who says, "Oh, this is not okay," I preferred racing when the engine was so loud that my eardrums exploded. I understand. That is also nice.
It
I like that
yeah,
also.
it's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whatever they say, because no matter whatever your response is, they won't be able to hear it. So you'll be fine.
Yeah, so I think it's just, as a fan, it's interesting and it's fun to see the sport evolve and to see what new comes out of it.
And I, for one, am glad we don't have to wait for too long after this episode, with Australia coming in like super soon.
Yes. And we will be having an episode coming out on Friday talking about the Australia track and maybe a couple of our updates and maybe some predictions as well. So stay tuned for that. If you like this episode, do consider following, subscribing, and sharing this with a fellow F1 fan or just someone that you would like to bring over to the dark side. Uh, if you got predictions or hot takes, please find us on Instagram. The link will be in the description. We are building this community and we are happy, almost desperate to have you join us. So thank you for sticking around for this long, and we will see you on the next episode of F101.
Bye.